He leads by example. He always is driven by a commitment to doing the best we can to serve people.
He's very passionate, but it's a passion that is grounded in responsibility.
At the end of the day, usually when he speaks up, everyone's listening.
Well, since I've spent all my life with physicians, it's only proper that it was a physician who started me off in this business, and his name was John M.B.A, a pathologist at St. Joseph's Hospital in Marshfield. And while I was in college, I worked with him on research projects, and one thing led to another and sparked my interest, of course, in healthcare, sparked my interest in science, and I think more than that, sparked my interest in dealing with patients. And I got a bachelor's degree in biochemistry, or I guess you'd call it a bachelor's degree in chemistry with a major in biochemistry, and worked with Dr. Roland Tritton, who was the absolute star of the university at that time. And the tools that we had to work with at the time compared to the tools that these investigators are working at today is just millions of, almost trillions of miles apart almost. When I started with the clinic, one of the responsibilities they gave me, they wanted to develop a full laboratory. They really had some minimal laboratory services, and they wanted to establish that on an outpatient basis. We assume that today because there are so many outpatient lab services. Well, we didn't have them in those days. And that was my first responsibility. I had an opportunity about a year ago to visit the laboratory, which I was once responsible for at the clinic years ago. Mary Alice Fredrick, who's runs that laboratory, gave me a tour. And again, I was just flabbergasted with what I saw.
You know, I feel as though I've had the privilege of getting to know him quite well over the many excellent adventures we've shared in the last 6 years. But it wasn't until I received his CV in conjunction with this wonderful event that I found out a unique feature about him. I bet he's the only person in the United States who is listed both in who's who in healthcare and who's who in snowmobiling.
And I was told about Fritz by some of his colleagues, and they said, well, Fritz is an interesting person because he seems to be very quiet at the table and he seems to be somewhat reserved, but at the end of the day, usually when he speaks up during those meetings, everyone's listening, and I think that's part of his charm. I would, I guess, consider him in some ways a humble visionary.
He's very passionate, but it's a passion that is grounded in responsibility and accountability. Responsibility and accountability to his family, his community, and himself. And that's what I think about when I think about my dad.
I think if you talk to many folks about Fritz, the first thing they'll say, and what always struck me is that so many people know Fritz. It seems like the entire state of Wisconsin and much of the upper Midwest know who Fritz is. They will all say the same thing, and that is either he got them started somehow, or he was a person that they initially contacted about their career, and their career was much more successful simply because they knew Fritz Wenzel.
His greatest pleasure, and I've seen this on a number of occasions when he has introduced me to some of his mentees or proteges, his greatest pleasure is helping people advance to achieve their full potential. And that's what makes him such a great guy.
I think what I'm trying to do with my students today is to instill some of that thirst in them. And as I'm reading all of these papers that I have on my desk that are coming in through the computer nowadays, trying to work with them as to how do we really critically think about issues? How do we really think about a project? How do we really think about results in a critical form? And it's amazing when I sit down with these students on the computer, with Skype, and sit down with them and talk with them about critically thinking about their results. It really gives me a good feeling when they say, aha, now I get it.
I mean, I have to say, UW-Stevens Point should be extremely proud to have Fritz as an alumnus. And this award is really, really well-deserved.
Well, of course, we want to say congratulations, and that his 6 lifetime achievements are very proud of him.